I made. I got the job on the spot at the studio because I was the super dope fun one. I got the job working for Girls Make Beats because I stayed true to what I believe is what's needed in the world. And Beyonce knew who I was before I met her because I was like, that girl. I got asked to get married. So I said, well, I ain't doing nothing. So I guess I'm just going to get married. So I actually was married at 22 years old. And he was in the military. So he joined the Marine Corps, and we got stationed in South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina. And again, I had been in Seattle for a few years, getting accustomed to the city life and things like that. And then I just wasn't really happy. I just I had everything, all my needs were met. I got a partner, I've got a thing, I've got this, I've got that. And I was like, wow, I actually just woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I noticed my partner really wasn't happy. I'm sitting here now trying to make sure he's happy. And then I look in the mirror and I just didn't recognize who I was. I literally was like, I didn't know. So I went back to where I started. I went back to my roots, went home and called my parents and said, hey, I think I'm going to come home for a little while. And I just read, and what's crazy is now that I look back at it as a full adult now, as a real adult now, I was depressed, y'all. I didn't know, because a lot of cultures don't really talk about those things. We don't have the opportunity or the resources to even have that be a luxury. So I was fully depressed now that I look at it, as I went back to try to figure out, do I go back to school? Do I stay married? What do I want to do with my life? I don't even know if I like myself right now. It was like a lot of life happening at once. And so I went back home and just read. I was around people who cared about me. I slept a lot. I just kind of, took baby steps in learning and seeing who this person was at 24 years old, right? So I was 24 at the time. And as I'm like kind of just internalizing, just kind of getting quiet, I think there's a lot of power in the sense that slowing down and being quiet is a really, really, really powerful thing in your journey of wherever you are at or whatever you're trying to focus on. You cannot really hear yourself with so much going on or so much noise. So I did that. People were like, you need to come and go do this and turn up. And I said, this is me. I love y'all, but this is what I need to do to recharge. I also recharge, and I still do this, y'all. I still do this. But during that time when I quieted the noise around me, I actually could hear God, the universe, whatever it is that, you focus. I was like, I don't need to be a 23-year-old housewife, and you have more life to live. So you need to go somewhere where there is sun. And when I tell you, and it sounds like wild and stuff when I say it, but I really do, like, this is exactly how simple it was, where I just heard a voice that said, you need to experience more life. So it was said Miami or LA. I've never been to either of them. I've never visited either of those cities. I had no idea what I wanted to do for a career. I just was like, okay, I like sunshine. Like, that's literally how I made this decision. And another tidbit, and fun fact that I love to share with the young girls that I mentor now with is closed mouths don't get fed. And I think a lot of us highly independent and creative and impactful people are like, I can figure it myself. I can get it done. I'm one of those overachievers, girl bosses, whatever you want to call it. I am that girl. And you know what? I like it. It's just me. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out myself. I also then mentioned it to another friend of mine who's very similar in that space. And she was like, I know you, and I'm going to put your name in this hat, and we'll see what happens. So I said I wanted to move to Los Angeles or Miami, wherever I get a job first. A friend of mine put my resume in the mix, or told a friend of a friend who told a friend, hey, my homegirl wants to move to LA. I did my resume. They were like, cool. Well, that woman was actually working for Rihanna's creative director, or Rihanna's vocal producer at the time. So they threw my resume in the mix. They said, hey, we've got, we're looking for a new assistant, and you're dope. So do you know anybody who's looking for a job? She said, well, I've got this girl who graduated from all these colleges, and she's like pristine and everything. She's got her things going on. And then I got this super dope fun one. And they said, we want the super dope fun one's resume. thank God that I was the super dope fun one, because that's how I got my resume in the mix and on the desk of, Rihanna's team. And so I interviewed, and I didn't just get the job because I was a homegirl's homegirl. I had to interview still. I did 5 different interviews. I did all things. I also had a lot of life still to figure out. I was still married, and I don't know what's going on. And I'm in Seattle. Everything I own is in South Carolina, and I'm about to pack up and move to a city that I've never been in, move in with a stranger, take a job I'd never heard of for the largest recording artist in the world. I said, oh, girl, well, whew. And I'm all just living on my grandma's, spare room in the computer room at the moment. Like, what are we doing? How are we going to figure this out? But we did it. We always just get it done. So I got hired by Rihanna's team. They said, how soon can you make it? I said, give me 2 weeks. I then called a friend of a friend, said, hey, I know you're not really doing anything, but do you want to fly to South Carolina and drive to California with me? And she's like, let's do it. So I took every dollar that I had, bought us 2 one-way tickets to South Carolina. I packed what I could fit. My entire life, I packed everything in the back seat and the trunk of a Jetta. And I hopped in the car. I drove across the country in 3 days and moved in with that stranger in a city I'd never been, and started working for Rihanna that next Sunday. So that is how I got my start in the music industry. Her manicurist, the person who's making the wigs, the airbrushing of the album cover, the planning, the merch that people buy in London for the world tour, helping with visual. Like, it was just, gosh, that job straight up right now to this day was the most challenging. And like, I had to learn how to use a MacBook, because I always used a PC. Listen, y'all, I was in the era before we didn't even have cell phones back in the day. Like, I'm that millennial, okay? So I got to see like both sides of the world. So they were like, well, we use Apple computers, so don't care if you use Microsoft, PCs and all that, figure it out. But yeah, that job taught me so much so fast. I had to just really, really, really quickly learn on the fly, on the job, which again, that is kind of how I learn. I'm a better learner. And I think a lot of that doesn't get spoken about enough. Everybody shows off their degrees and their certificates and the things, but I don't get a degree or a certificate for learning how to charter a jet at 24 years old when I've never even been out of the country. You know what I mean? Like those types of things. So again, we need to I want a certificate somewhere, y'all. Because again, the University of Life, I think really will teach you so much more if you're open to receiving it. You have to be open and honest with yourself to receive and to know that, all right, this might be hard right now, but there are some diamonds, there's some gems, something's going to pull up and it's going to be great. But in the moments, listen, in the moments, that was still to this day the hardest job I'd ever been a part of. I worked there for about a year. On top of Rihanna, she also was the creative director and did a lot of directing of music videos and films. So it was also Usher and Lil Wayne at the time too. So it was like we were always doing a million different things because we were working for the production company and then this. And so it was, wow, it was great. Like I said, I'm loving this to think back, but I lasted a year, y'all. Like that is one of the things I think in my personal journey of life is really, that's the thing that gets you going the most. Figure it out as you're there. Figure it out on the fly. Use that brain. You got this, you got this, you got this. You really, really need to be secure in who you are as a person and be so comfortable with who you are and how you move and how you think. Be prideful and relentless in the space that I love who I am. I know I make mistakes. I know I got things going on, but I ain't gonna do that because that just doesn't fit well in my moral compass or this or the third, especially when it comes to, creativity and the way that this industry and these industries kind of are shaped. Because I was just a cool vibe. They hired me on the spot. Man, when I tell you, Rose, she was like my first music mama, if you will, my first mentor. She was a badass She was a baddie girl. She was that girl from the 70s running a studio, seeing a woman, tiny little 5'3", little Filipino lady just running around, telling everybody what to do. I was like, I can do this too. This is a vibe and I like this. So I got hired on the spot, and my job at the studio, again, I don't have any degrees in any of this. I just like music. I just loved music. I love the way it makes me feel. And so let's keep it going. So I became a client service relations girl. And that's Record Plant was the only studio that had that. So again, Record Plant, for just the people that don't know, Record Plant's actually one of the top 25 recording studios in the world. Like songs like Purple Rain, Queen, We Are the Champions, Toxic by Britney Spears, Stan, Eminem did Stan, the Carter 7, the Carter 5, Kanye got in his car accident leaving Record Plant because he was working with Pharrell. And then Kanye came back and did Through the Wire, his first single at Record Plant. Like, this studio throughout its entirety, right, has always been associated with, like, I mean, Bob Marley, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Jimmy, like, just like the list can go on and on and on in every genre. But now at this time, in this era of the Record Plant, it's really known as like the hip hop studio. It was like the studio, the most expensive studio in LA. It was like, if you can get in there, you're gonna walk down the hall and it's will.i.am, Justin Bieber, Chris Brown, Beyonce, Gaga, like. It was such a cool time in my life. I'm just gonna have to like I said, I love it down. And again, it came at a time where I'm now 24. So I got hired there as a 24-year-old. Still don't know what I want to do, y'all. We're still just vibes and living. Because again, remember that thing said, go experience life. So cool. I'm just hanging out, literally playing basketball in a studio with Chris Brown and jokes with Nipsey Hussle and, all of these things. Like, that was my job. And I worked there for 10 years. So I worked there. And again, I started as an intern, and I had done every single job you can think of under that roof until I left in 2020 as the vice president of business development and studio manager. So again, I had a bunch of jobs before that. I was vice president, studio manager, all that. And my job mainly was to make sure that everybody just feels good enough to create art. I think music is one of the freest and most amazing, magical medicines that we have on this planet. And it transcends language, it transcends political views, it doesn't matter. I also, while I worked at Record Plant, was on-air talent for All Def Digital. I helped them build out the All Def Digital platform, just laughing and making fun jokes with my friend Kev on stage. I've known Kev for years back in Tacoma, in Washington State. Kanisha, same, another Seattle. Listen, we're all from Washington. We're pretty funny over there, I guess, but you got to make jokes with all the clouds, okay? Period. You got to bring your own sunshine sometime. But, Patrick Cloud, all of the creating super duper, really fun experiences that make people feel good, right? And so that was a really fun time. I also was an on-air radio host for Dash Radio. So I also helped Dash Radio kind of build out with my boy DJ Ski here in LA throughout. And I did all of this at the same time. So Ken, I just want y'all to know, I was running the studio, I was on the radio, I was bartending. I used to bartend at Penthouse Day Club, Ace of Diamond. I fit in the fun into work as well. And I was asked to be a part of a panel for a nonprofit called Girls Make Beats. And this organization's from Miami. Their mission is to educate girls 5 to 17 how to engineer, produce, and DJ. At the time, I had no idea that was only less than 3% women across the whole. I said, that's 3 different jobs, and there's still only 3% is kind of OD. That's kind of crazy. So I was like, okay. And so they reached out. They were visiting from Miami, and they reached out and were like, hey, we heard that this is the dopest studio in LA. They were like, can we come and give 10 girls a tour? And I'm like, no. Girl, Beyonce is literally downstairs. Like, Young Thug, I got everybody in here. I was like, Girl, Prince. I have like the people that came in that room, let me tell you, are just like insane. And I'm like, I instantly, because that's what I was told. That's what it always has been for 50 years of existence. This is not what we let happen. So I'm like, I just said no, just out of instinct. And then I kind of stopped and I was like, I looked around, I'm in my office and I'm like, I'm the only girl in the building. I'm like, that's kind of, I'm in charge though. I said, I'm the only person of color in upper management. Most of the girls that are part of this program were from, BIPOC community. So I was like, okay, no. And then I finally had that, oh, girl, you're the boss. You are the boss. You are in charge. This is your castle. So I called her right back and said, you know what? Yes, we're going to do this. I would love to take you and 10 girls on a tour of this studio, but we got to do it before the artists show up and they be late anyway. So come on, girl, pull up and we're going to have a good time. So Tiffany, Miranda, and the people of Girls Make Beats then were like, cool. So they pulled up about 11. I gave them an amazing tour of the space. And I just did what I normally do. And I gave tours often, but it was for Sony executives and, people like that. It wasn't ever a bunch of 10-year-olds who were going to freak out if Justin Bieber walks down the hall, right? Like safety first, you guys. So I gave them a tour and I did the same tour that I give everybody. So this is where Kanye recorded Through the Wire. This is where Alicia Keys did Girl on Fire. This is where DJ Khaled and I were playing pool. This is where I beat Chris Brown in a 3-point shootout. I'm holding on to that one, okay? Because I did it and he saw it. And then Justin Bieber heard that I beat Chris. So next time Justin came, he said, Whit, come on. You got the ball. I lost to Justin Bieber, but I beat Chris Brown. So, okay, they both ballers, but I still got a little something in there. So, but I just told the girls the fun stuff. They're 15-year-olds. They're not going to care about invoices and answering the phone and begging people for them to pay the bills and the busy work that I actually do for my job. So I was pretty much like, hey, yeah, the tour's over. Like we can go listen to music and they got the speakers and we just a little dance party, have some cupcakes, and then I'll send you all on your way. And the founder was like, we're not done with the tour. We have to show them your office. And I'm like, girl, no, I didn't decorate it yet. It's not cute. It's not even, it's just whatever. I was like, no, let's just go eat cupcakes and dance. Hello? And she was like, no, trust me. And I'm like, okay. So I took these 10 girls up to my office. And when I saw their eyes just lit up and they were like, this is your office? And I'm like, yeah. And it didn't click. It was like the light bulb showed up like, this is cool to y'all. This is okay. And then they're taking pictures. They're like, I'm like, okay, go off. I said, let's go. So I went down. They did interviews of everybody after for a recap video. And then they went back to Miami. I'm thinking, cool, that was my good deed for the day. Like, I'll never see them again, but I hope they, are great, whatever. They sent me this recap video. And they interviewed all the girls. And one of the girls, you could tell, had a really hard life. She was 11 years old. She was a part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, which I love to this day. We've partnered with them as well. I just think they do such amazing work in the mentorship space. But she was a part of that program, and you could tell she had a hard life. Like, y'all, like when I tell you, it just hurts me to think about an 11-year-old having to deal with some of the stuff that these kids have to deal with. So they asked her, what was your favorite part of the tour? And I'm thinking she's going to be like, when I got to see where Beyonce recorded or something like that, And she said, when I went into the boss's office, I could see myself being that. I want to do that. And I'm like, she's talking about me, girl. She's talking about me. And when I tell you, I grew up in a space, 1,200 people, beautiful family, strong culture, but there's nobody that looks like me. There was nobody else that had anything else going on besides what we were told. This is all y'all got going on, so figure it out. That just again, that same voice, the light bulb that showed up in my office just blew up over my head and was shining so bright. I said, that same voice that told me you need to go experience more life. That same voice told me, you need to help make this bigger, because you can make this bigger, and that's what you're gonna do. And I'm like, cool. So I called Tiffany Miranda back, and I said, hey, I don't know if you're ever thinking about expanding or things like that, but I want to help you make this bigger. I think that this should be bigger. I think more girls need to see this. More girls need to see us. They need to see them. Ooh, they need to see them. And again, if that's just me opening the door, come on. If that's me talking to them, come on, let's do it. For the Love of My Girls, which is a nonprofit organization alongside Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance. They actually, and I love how this came about, but organically they reached out to me to do some promo stuff on my social media site. And they were like, can you help us talk about Black breast cancer and Black breast health? And I said, sure. I've never experienced it. I don't know anybody who has, but I do know I want to help other people. And if it's going to help somebody, absolutely, even save a life, absolutely. So I get to, help them create amazing awareness around, Black women's health and breast health. And goodness, I'm Grammy mentor. So I mentor with the Grammys. I mentor any and everywhere that I can. I'm advisory board member for a number of other female-led nonprofits. But again, it's more so about everybody. I want to uplift everybody. So right now, my passion, the really thing that I'm really excited about in 2026 is getting back outside, I guess, if you will, in these creative streets. I would like to start I'm going to start some podcasting again. So please help me tune in, be a part of it. If you see something that Whitney's to come on, I will yap all day with y'all. So a lot of my creative stuff I'm getting back into that I had left behind when I became an executive. And then two, I am actually back in school. So after 20 years, I have been asked to be a part of a pilot program for a specialized BA degree, which would be a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and change, focused on hip hop education. So for me, I think music is always very cool. You guys, I haven't told nobody that we didn't even do the press release because it's very, very cool. But a lot of really amazing people, pioneers in the game. So it's outside of, we're in New York. It's all thanks to, the Hip Hop Education Center out of New York, and Martha Diaz. I just got to shout out my big sister, Martha Diaz. She called me and I said, I was in one of those ruts, you guys. I was kind of like, what's next? What do I do? I've been just so focused on trying to keep it all afloat that I don't even know what I want to do. And so I don't even know what I'm passionate about. And I said, you know what? Boom, this just came in. So I learn more, learn something, figure something out, try a new hobby, try to figure it out. And so I am a full-time student. I am currently I'm on spring break. I'm on spring break, y'all, the first time in 20 years. So I'm really excited. But again, like I said, music, helping people, education, that is really my core. That is where I'm at. I'm stepping into my leadership space, my leadership era, Now, joy and happiness for me is a very, 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 these are very different things. And I think a lot of people might see and think that they're, no. Joy comes from here. Joy comes from us. Joy comes from you. And no one can take that from you. So that is why, if anything, in this quick vibe, just pouring out of my story and journey, joy, find your joy. And again, it's gonna sometimes gonna be real bright joy. Sometimes it's gonna be a little dimmer. And if you got to jump back into the happiness space for a little bit, just so you get there, cool. I have found my joy again this year. I'm really, really excited. I'm so excited about learning and building new things with new people, stepping out of my comfort zone again to expand my creativity and to expand my tribe. Like I said, shout out to my tribe, my Makah tribe. Like I said, I'm a very strong Makah woman, and that's what I have been taught by my mom, my grandmother, everybody that I grew up in Neah Bay, is we're very, very strong women. But I love the fact that I get to be an example of it over and over and over again. So as many times as I have to recreate it, we will do it again and again, and it's going to help somebody. So yeah, that's where we're at now, y'all. Is we're doing it all, but finding our joy. moments in my career where I've had like, I'm just hanging out with Mariah Carey right now, and she's now, okay, that's cool. Oh, Pharrell just told me I was cool. First off, T-Pain just called me funny. Like, there's moments in my career, I just sang background vocals with Robin Thicke. Like, I'm like, oh, there's like I said, I can do that all day. One of the times that I really, really finally felt like, Momma, I made it, was it was a partnership. It was actually a partnership. And there was, like I said, I've had a lot of really awesome events and moments and spaces with really big artists and people, creatives and all of that. But when we got to do a partnership or help launch a partnership with Mattel and Barbie, that to me was like, okay, sister, like, you're doing it. I opened my mailbox and my email, and I'm emailing Apple, Starbucks, MasterCard, Grammys, Mattel. But I think the reason that one specifically was like, oh yeah, we're moving it, we're doing it. Okay, we're outside, if you will, right? When in these make it happen educational tech girly streets, it was that. And I think it came because when we first pitched the idea to Mattel and Barbie, they said no. They said no multiple times, y'all. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is the greatest idea ever. Like, what are you saying no about? Like, I just couldn't fathom why they wouldn't want to do this. And I think that is probably the one that's really, really stood out to me the most, because I was a little girl who didn't have a Barbie that looked like me. I was a little girl who wanted to play with the Barbies, but again, like, I didn't feel connected. It was one of those things where I'm like, what are we marketing to these young girls? How are we setting them up for success in all areas and aspects when they don't even see themselves in spaces and places? You know, I just was something that I'm like, wow. So for us to be able to help launch Barbie as a music producer in 2018 with my girl Esther Dean, we did, it was during the pandemic as well. So it was really an isolating time for these kids who had to immediately just change their whole world. That one to me was really, really cool. I felt like, Momma, I made it. I think going to the Grammys also was one of those ones where I'm like, yeah. And we didn't like buy the tickets or anything. Like, the president of the Grammys gave us tickets to then also bring two of the girls. So I think that too is one of those. And then the record plant, like, I've done some really iconic, like, 6-figure deals, like big, I'm like, and I don't even talk about it. I'd be like forgetting, but then I'll call my mom and I'll be like, hey, oh yeah, I did this thing. Half the time they don't know what I'm talking about, but I just like to say it. So it's actually nice that I get to share some of these milestones and work milestones with you. Another one that's just kind of random that people ask me all the time, because I've met so many and been a part of around so many different artists for years. They're like, who's the one that like starstruck you? And I'm like, I haven't really had that. But the one that did kind of, there's two I was like, you know what, their aura, it's all about the aura vibes. Prince, I got to be there with Prince, and I was like, woo. And you know what? He was so cool and was playing ping pong, and he beat all the boys and was shooting basketball. Like, it was like, wow, this is very, very cool. So that was another like, okay, Momma, I made it. And then Jay-Z, having my conversation with Jay-Z. I think a lot of people always ask, would you rather go to dinner with Jay-Z or $100 million or whatever? I got the thing. I got to do it. And I always laugh at this one because it ties back to kind of what I was talking about throughout this whole interview. But being yourself, even in those situations, is still always the number one. So everybody's like, well, what did you ask him? You asked him business advice and and I said, nope, my conversation with Jay-Z was, what is your ratio to peanut butter to jelly on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Because that's what I was making. I was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I was like curious, hey, Jay-Z, what's your ratio? And he said, I kind of think I'm a 50-50 person. I said, I'm a little more jelly than peanut butter. And that was really it. I met Beyonce, and they had been recording. Her and her husband had been recording for 30 days, and I had not seen. I'm visiting. I know me and Jay-Z are besties, not really, but you feel me, like I'm around everybody in their entirety in their camp, and it was just an amazing whole a month worth of creativity and things. But I never saw her, never met her, and it was the last day, and I was like, if I don't meet my big sister in my head, someone gonna feel it, y'all. And so she came in. They're like, here, wait, come on, we'll introduce you to B. And so I start to walk over. And again, I've already had 29 days with everybody else in their camp, and so I go and I said, hey, my name is Whitney. And she goes, oh, so you're Whitney. And I'm like, blink, blink. What's your name again, girl? I was like, hold up. What's your name again? I'm like, what? And she was like, oh, so you're Whitney. Like, she was like, girl, I've been waiting to meet you, kind of. And I'm like, yeah, girl, if there's anything you need, let me know. And I went to shake her hand, and she had like her water cup and the laptop, and she was like, girl, what? And I was like, ah. And we just gave each other a big old hug. She went and finished her album and became, and it still is that girl, an icon, and my big sister in my head. But that was probably the coolest, most iconic moment for me in my career.